I think okay. So hello everyone. We at Fast&Up, we are back live on Facebook. This time with a very well-known coach and running commentator, expert, I would say, Ian Dexter Ladbroke. He's coming live from Scotland. He's known to a lot of people in India through his training programs. He obviously coaches a lot of elites across the world, including in Kenya. He has a ton of experience when it comes to running. So, Ian, very happy to have you with us today.
Hi Vijay, it's great to be here, and all my best wishes go to you and your team, and to all the guys over there in India who I'm sure are training really hard even through these difficult times.
That's great. So, for the audience who is tuned in, we would love to take your questions as we go on. This specific program is coming on the back of an event that Fast&Up has announced. It's called the Festival 5K Run, which is basically one of its own kind in India, where Fast&Up is doing an event with both racing as well as the non-racing side. On the racing side, you have people who are going to run 5K in a time slot between 12th of December and 21st of December. They can try as many times as they want to. There are certain rules and regulations for doing that. All that they have to do is look at the regulations, before that register, look at the regulations, run your 5K time, which is which will be counted using your GPS or your Garmin's or your TomToms or whatever, and upload it onto Strava, and you will have a leaderboard, and we will have cash prizes being given out to the top 5 in each category. The categories are both on men and women, right from 18 years to 60 years and upwards. So feel free to join. This is an interesting format because I would love to ask Ian after I conclude on the formats that are available globally. But also for the newbies, runners who want to try out the 5K distance, there is a non-competitive section where runners can register free, and they will be eligible for some vouchers and freebies from Fast&Up. The whole idea is to encourage running and encourage, in fact, the 5K distance, because 5K is something which a lot of people don't do, but it's so intense and it's a great stepping stone to doing better things in running. So, Ian, what does 5K sound for you?
I love the last line. That absolutely sums up my philosophy. You know, one of the things I've seen with the growth of the running market in India is everybody is in such a hurry to run a marathon or a half marathon that they neglect the basics. If you look at the top African athletes, giving one example, Joshua Cheptegei, the Ugandan guy who's been breaking world records in the last few months, he started at 1500 meters. Then as he got stronger, he tried cross country and 5 and 10K. He's been in no hurry to move up to the half marathon. And in fact, he ran in the world half and he didn't run so well. But he's been breaking world records at 5,000 on the road and on the track, 10,000 on the track. If you neglect to work on your speed, you'll never reach your potential in half marathon or full marathon or beyond that. And it's not like running is here for 1 year, it's here for forever. So people shouldn't be in too much of a hurry. And the 5K is a great event. When I was competitive many years ago, I loved 5K. And you could really, I'll probably get criticized for saying this, you could really hurt yourself running 5K because you can push yourself beyond almost your limits because it's manageable. It's only going to take you something between, well, depending on your level, something between 14-15 minutes and 45 minutes, even if somebody's brisk walking. So it's a distance that everybody can get their head around. You know, if you tell your mom or your auntie or your uncle who's sitting watching TV, hey, let's go and do 21K. They're just going to stay on the couch. They're not moving. If you tell them, hey, we can work on going for a walk in the evening and gradually increasing the distance and then slowly doing a little bit of jogging, it's not going to be so scary. So that's the beauty of the 5K. Everybody can do it. It doesn't matter whether you're unfit, a little bit unhealthy, a little bit heavy. As long as you do it with the right practice and the right progression, you'll be able to do your 5K in 3-4 weeks time.
Well,
if you're carry on.
Go ahead, Ian.
If you're a regular runner or an elite runner and you've been missing racing, because let's face it, in the last 7-8 months there's not been any races, so a lot of runners have just been training. They've been doing some of these challenges where they've run probably too many miles. Mm-hmm. They probably run on the road more than they should do because they've got no focus. So the beauty of this event with Fast&Up is, you can run a 5K, you can use your Strava, your Garmin, whatever gadget. And by the way, the dinosaur has now got a gadget. So even me, I'm recording my runs. So everybody can do it. So the elite runners now, I hope, are going to see this event and say, hey, there's a bit of prize money as well. Let's see how fast we can run.
Fantastic, Ian. I think that's a great summary on 5K because I have learned personally how difficult it is to run a 5K. I find running a longer distance more soothing for me. But when it comes to a 5K, it's so intense, right? And is 5K a popular distance, across the globe? Because in India, obviously, it has not taken off to that extent. But I hear about park runs and, things which happen every weekend. What is the scene like in UK, for example?
Here in the UK, this is where park run first started. Just excuse me. Let me switch off my WhatsApp. I can hear it binging away in the background. Right, I've killed it. So the park run started in the UK, and right. Before the first park run started, most athletes would have a routine at the weekend. Saturday, they do a tempo run, and that could be anything from 3K to 10 or 12K. And on Sunday, they do their long run. So these bright guys came up with the idea of the park run because they wanted to encourage people not to run on the road all the time. They wanted to encourage people to run in a safer environment where there's not so much pollution. And they picked on the idea of 5K because it's a manageable distance. Now in the UK, not so much during the COVID times, but generally in the UK, there's hundreds of park runs every weekend. Mm-hmm. And now it's taken off in other places. And it's a distance that I use with my athletes a lot, whether they're juniors, whether they're seniors, whether they're elite, whether they're beginners. 5K is a good measure of fitness. Mm-hmm. And we play around with it. Sometimes we go shorter, sometimes we go a bit longer. And as you know, at the moment, Running for Health, we're in the middle of the 10K challenge, which will happen just after your 5K event. And we've used the time in the last few months to focus on bringing the speed out with our runners. Instead of having a calendar full of half marathons and full marathons, I've said to them, guys, let's go back to basics. Let's see if we can improve everybody by 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, depending on their level. Because when the races restart, they're going to carry that speed through, and their times for half marathon and marathon are going to be rewritten completely. So around the world, 5K is a very, very popular event. It's a very popular distance. And it's my hope, and I'm sure that with a little bit of work together, we can make 5K and a park run, similar thing to park run, we can make that happen all around India.
Yep. And
and
fantastic. And I think,
it'll
yeah, I think
help
you don't
people
need.
to develop.
Yeah, go ahead. So I think the other good thing about 5K runs is that you don't need a big space. You can actually have it in a very contained space and easy to handle, easy to carry off. So that is a plus point when it comes to 5K. But I just want to jump into another topic, Ian. Uh, let's talk about 5K preparation. How long do you think anybody needs to prepare for doing an effective 5K run?
Okay, it depends, of course, on the level of the athlete. If it's a beginner, I normally say to people when they first come to me, at the moment I've got 3 new trainees, all from different parts of Africa, and they're not elite runners. They're all housewives. They're trying to get fit. They're trying to lose some weight, and they've come to me initially saying I can't manage to do even 1 kilometer.
Hmm.
One of those ladies, after three weeks, last weekend she ran 10K.
Mm-hmm.
So with an organized approach, people should be able to do 5K within 3 to 4 weeks.
Sure.
They may not run the whole distance. It may be a mixture of walking and jogging, but for sure, as long as there's no medical reason why they can't try, for sure most people would be able to complete 5K within 3 to 4 weeks. So now's the ideal time for them to start. If they're going to enter the event, now's the perfect time for them to start.
Sure. That's very helpful in terms of an answer. We are also inviting questions from the viewers. So I have one question from Dipesh Sharma. This is very interesting in terms of what it says. I think it talks about pacing. So should you? I mean, let's talk generally about pacing in 5K. I mean, do people go all out and then back off, or do they step up the pace, or do they have the consistent pace during 5K? What's your thoughts?
Very interesting question and a great question. And I was having a debate with one of my trainees earlier about exactly this subject.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's an experienced runner and they've done their warm up properly, so they've stretched, they've jogged, they've done some drills, done some strides, and they're ready to go, then they can start the race almost at top speed. Maybe the first kilometer will be a few seconds slower than their average pace, but then they'll run full speed all the way through, and hopefully the last K will be the fastest.
Mm.
Now, for a beginner, you'll almost look at the opposite side of that, because for a beginner who hasn't got that experience, if they start too fast within a few hundred meters or a couple of kilometers, they'll be reduced to a slow walk and they'll be demotivated. So for beginners, I would say that what they should try to do is they should try to find somebody else to run with and have a bit of a conversation just to make sure they're not overdoing it.
Mm.
For regular runners, and looking at the picture of Dipesh that I can see here on the screen, he's obviously a reasonable runner and a regular runner. Then you set yourself a target. Let's say, for argument's sake, your target is 25 minutes. So that's 5 minutes per kilometer. The first kilometer, maybe you just be a little bit cautious just to make sure that you ease yourself into the race. So you target 5:15 for the first kilometer, and then you click into 5:55, and hopefully you have some gas left in the tank, so that the last kilometer is going to be 4:45 or a little bit faster, and boom, you hit your target.
Well, interesting. I think basically what you're saying is that keep enough gas in your tank to push for the last kilometer. Don't burn yourself out in the first 1 kilometer, because I have found the same thing. When you run a 5K, you feel that you are able to crack that distance. So probably you go faster than what your pace target is, but end up paying the price. I would say in the third or fourth kilometer, where you tend to slow down and then try to complete it in a not so energetic way.
Yeah, absolutely right. And even for fit people, I mean, there's a lot of people that will be listening and they'll be thinking, hey, I haven't really tried 5 kilometers before, but it's only 5K or 3 miles, so it's not very far. Trust me, if you go too fast, you can even blow up in a 5K.
Yeah.
I can remember years and years ago running for my club, running a track 5K, and I'd got in my mind that I was going to run a certain time. So I set off, and there was a guy that from a local club who was a little bit quicker than that. So I thought I'll just hold on to this guy as long as I can. And I wasn't even wearing a watch. And in those days, Garmin's and that sort of thing didn't exist. So it was old school running. So I start following this guy, and I follow him for 3K, and I'm thinking, this is hurting a lot, and I've still got 5 laps to do.
Yeah.
And he stepped off the track at 3K. He was doing a 3K time trial within the race. Completely screwed my race up. The last 5 laps were a nightmare. So it's very important that you pace yourselves properly.
Well, great thing on the pacing thing, coach. I mean, we keep hearing about tapering and taking the last week easy when it comes to a full marathon and a half marathon. Is there a philosophy of tapering when it comes to 5K, or maybe taking the previous day easy? Does that happen in 5Ks?
The beauty of 5K, I'm just noticing it looks like my camera's locked. I'm looking at the ceiling.
I can still hear you, so that's why I'm continuing.
Okay. Perfect. So with 5K, it's a distance that you can almost run every week. But obviously, if you're doing hard training, you run a 5K at park run or something similar at the end of the week, then that race you're not going to run a PB, because you've probably done 2 other sessions during the week. You've done a long run the Sunday before. So you just calculate that as being training, and you'll go into it without the expectation to run a PB. If you want to run a PB, then yes, you have to taper.
Sure.
So if, for example, you normally do speed sessions on a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday, and you're doing your 5K on the Saturday, your sessions on the Tuesday and Thursday will be about half of the volume that you would do on a normal week. And you'll use those sessions to practice your race pace. So your overall volume for the week you'd reduce by up to a half, and you'd make sure that the actual intensity level was a little bit less. I was never the type of athlete who took a rest day before a race.
Sure.
Even a marathon, I'd want to go out and turn my legs over for a few kilometers the day before, but I'd maybe take a rest day on the Thursday or the Friday. So it's not necessary to taper very much, but just to back off a little bit, freshens you up enough.
So great answer, Ian. So there is a related question from Madhur Anand, who is basically asking a connected question. We talked about the freshness when it comes to a 5K race, but I think the second part of the question is also very interesting. He says he did a 5K race the previous week. When should he try and do a next 5K race? I'm assuming that he wants to better the timing, or at least hold on to the timing. So what would your suggestion be?
Again, it would depend on how experienced Madhur is. If he's a regular runner, then I would say give it 2 weeks and have another go. I wouldn't necessarily get into the habit of chasing a PB week after week after week. And we'll call it a PB because these are COVID times, but normally a PB is only in an actual race. It's not in a time trial. But what I would say is give a week in the middle and say, so you have a second go at doing your 5K after 2 weeks. So in the middle, instead of doing 5K, you'll do a tempo run of either 3 or 4 kilometers just to try and run faster, to give yourself the confidence to push in the next 5K.
Great. I think it's also about being mentally fresh to take on the next race or target, right? It's not just about the physical part of the physical aspect. It's also about feeling mentally fresh to go and crack a a PB or a PR or a training best, as you call it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the mental approach is very important in athletics. You can trot along and enjoy the run without putting pressure on yourself. But if you're wanting to try and nail a PB, you've got to have confidence, and you'll get
Right.
you'll get the confidence from the training that you're doing in the build-up.
Correct.
So when I see people proudly announcing on social media that they did a race without doing any training and this went wrong and that went wrong, I just think, okay, learn from your mistake and prepare properly next time. So if you're trying to run a PB for 5K, then you need to have the confidence that you can run a faster pace.
Sure.
There's little point in running longer than 5K on a tempo run, but there's every advantage to doing a session. I mean, one session that can be really good is to run 3K tempo, take a short recovery, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, then do another 2K, and see if that combined time is faster than your previous PB. Then your mind will be saying, hey, I can run faster than this.
Yeah.
That's a session. That's a session I used to use years ago when I was running competitively, and it was a session given to me by a GB international who'd been to Commonwealth Games and stuff like that. I used to go through a mental block, as you picked it up earlier on, between 3 and 4K.
Yeah.
Because once you hit 4K in a 5 kilometer race, once you hit 4K, it's only 1,000 meters.
Yeah.
That's only going to take you, well, if you're fast, 3 minutes. If you're not so fast, 4 or 5. It's not going to take long. But that period between 3 and 4K is where the mind can start playing games.
Yeah.
The legs will start telling you stories.
You tell me about it.
Yeah, it's true.
I can remember all those stories of the last kilometer.
Yeah.
So Ian, one aspect which is underestimated or people don't give much importance to is probably nutrition and hydration, right? So 5K is at the end of the day a small distance. I mean, do we even need to care about nutrition and hydration while doing a 5K? I mean, both for a newcomer as well as an elite.
Yeah,
or
for sure.
experienced one.
For sure. I mean, what I would say is, during a 5K, you'll very rarely see people take a drink. Elite at the elite end.
Elite.
For beginners who are going to maybe take 40 or 50 minutes for 5K, I'd recommend that they carry a bottle with them and that they take small sips just to keep themselves refreshed. But before the race, it's important. It's important to make sure that your body's well hydrated, and that I always say that within the last 40-45 minutes, you should drink between half and a liter of fluids, and then pop to the bathroom before the race starts. And the product that I would use is Activate in the build-up. You know, I was never a big fan of just drinking plain water. So I used to use a product that was on the market in the UK. I'll not mention the name of it.
Sure.
But since we started doing some link up with you guys, we tried out some of the products, as you know. You kindly provided us with some, and some of my Kenyan athletes tried the products out, and they loved using the Activate as within their bottle before they run, whether it's in training or whether it's racing. And then, of course, afterwards you need to rehydrate. So the short answer is yes, you need to hydrate.
Ian, have you come across people who use gels during a 5K race? Because typically people use it for the longer distances. So is there a role for gels?
In my opinion, no. I mean, I don't see any need in an event that's going to take less than an hour. I don't see that there's going to be a benefit to using a gel, other than maybe a psychological benefit. You know, so some people will insist that they're hungry after 25-30 minutes.
Sure.
So if they have a gel in their pocket and they use the gel, that's fine. But regular runners and faster runners, absolutely no benefit at all.
Great. I think that was a probably a good answer. Uh, so let me just get into the last leg. For any 5K runner, uh, they would assume that doing a great 5K is a great estimation of their 10K times, 21K times, and the full marathon times. So is there a index by which they can say if I'm good in 5K, I'm eventually going to get to be a better half marathoner or a full marathoner?
Um, it's a very interesting question, and I'll just use one time slot as an example, and this is one that I've worked on and calculated several times. Normally, there's a correlation, a quite easy correlation between 5K and 10K. So if you run 20 minutes for 5K, you should be able to run somewhere around 41 minutes for 10K. So it's just a small percentage of slowing down. Obviously, the longer the run, the more the difference is going to be. But one thing that's absolutely for sure, if you improve your times at 5K and 10K, and you do the right amount of long runs and hill work before you do your 21 or your 42, you're going to improve by big chunks. People neglect the shorter distances. And you know you're a regular runner and you're a good level runner. If you have the ability to push yourself hard at 5 and 10K and make time gains over those distances, they'll translate into bigger time gains when you come to run half and full marathon.
Great. I think that's very helpful because that's one of the reasons why people probably underestimate a 5K, because they don't know that 5Ks can actually translate into an advantage when it comes to a half marathon or a full marathon, because that's what a lot of us do, right? The other interesting thing that I wanted to ask you is there a recovery phase for after doing a 5K? Do you even need a recovery, or is it just okay to get started with whatever you're trying to do and get on with life?
For regular runners, I would encourage them to get out the following day and have a shakedown run, just a 6 or 8K recovery run. So for regular runners, there's not really the need to chill out and relax too much. For beginners, then when they've done their first 5K, they'll probably say, right, that box ticked, I've got the medal, now I'll go back to the couch. Then a couple of days later, they start to realize that they've done something important. And they say, okay, I did 5K, so what's next? So next is like maybe 10K.
Right.
So the best thing they can do is continue the practice. Sure. Not at a high intensity, but if people if regular runners do a 5K, they'll be out training the next day, no problem.
Great. So the other question which comes to my mind before we wind up is a lot of us are stuck with half marathon training, full marathon training, because if you look at India, the calendar starts from, if it was not a COVID year, the calendar starts with half marathon starting somewhere in June, July kind of thing. And then it culminates with the Mumbai marathon in January, and then it goes on to the Delhi marathon in February, right? So you actually don't have time to do training for any other distances, right? You are always into the half marathon plan or the full marathon plan. So how do you treat and run a 5K distance when you're actually trying to do a full marathon in, say, January, and you have something coming up in December? Are you okay to do it?
It's a great question, and yes, absolutely. You can run a 5 or a 10K. If you're in marathon training or half marathon training, you're strong. And I often tell people, you'll be very surprised. And if you come to the taper phase before a half or a full, ideally you'll do a 10K 1 or 2 weeks out before your big race. And if you've been doing good volume of training and speed work as well, you'll probably run a PB in your 10K. There's always time, and a 5K, you can do that just as one of your training sessions in the build-up. You can almost do 5K every week or every 10 days in the build-up, because not every day in marathon training is about volume.
Sure.
It's getting that right mixture between speed and endurance. So there's always time to do 5K and 10K, and more people should try it, because they'd be surprised how much they'll improve their 21 and their 42.
So thank you, Ian. I think we have come to the end of the session. But before we end, Ian, I also would like to hear from you what you have been trying to do in India. What are you into, so that viewers get an idea about the different things that you're trying to do with athletes across India as well as abroad.
Okay, hey, it's good for you to give nice for you to give me the chance to do an advert.
I mean, it's always helpful.
So basically, I stayed in Delhi from 2012 to beginning of 2015, and I was working with a small NGO that was working basically with street kids in East Delhi and other places, and teaching them how sport can actually help them to improve their lives.
Sure.
And I'm really proud of the fact that quite a number of those youngsters are now in their early 20s towards mid 20s, and they're also coaches. So they've gone through a process. They've become a good athlete. One or two of them have made, like Avdesh Nagar has run for India in the World Youth Championships. He medaled in the World Schools Championships. And I'm still in contact, and I'm still training some of these guys. So the other thing that I'm doing, and it kind of happened almost accidentally, when I was leaving India in 2015, and I didn't have any thoughts of coming back to stay there for a long period, some of my trainees asked me, like, Coach, what can we do? I said, well, we can communicate online. So that's how Running for Health was born, basically. So Running for Health is the organization that I head up, and we train athletes all the way from beginner level right up to Olympic hopefuls. So I have 3 Kenyan athletes who I hope will be in Tokyo next year, one of whom has a really good chance of a medal. So we go all the way from beginner right up to Olympic level athletes. But I think the beauty of what we do is the training programs are individualized. So we don't roll out the same plan to somebody for 21K that this person's having or that person's having. I take a holistic approach to coaching. So I like to understand the individual. I like to understand their motivation and also their lifestyle and their family situation, so that I know that they can fit the training in that will suit them. Rather, some people are high mileage, some people are low mileage. Sure. You can't take one brush for everybody. So basically, we've been training people to run races to fit in with the normal Indian running calendar. So mainly people have been preparing for Bangalore 10K, Delhi half marathon, Mumbai marathon, New Delhi marathon, for those big races, which is great. But in the last 6 months, we've concentrated very much on shorter distances, also cross training. So most of our members now have bicycles and they cycle as well. So we're now looking forward to when the duathlon, triathlon races start, because we'll be grabbing podium places there as well.
Fantastic. So, thanks. Yeah.
So basically, it's tailor-made training for anybody. Sure. So if anybody's interested, drop me a line. We can have a chat.
Great. Thank you, Ian. I think that's wonderful. I think we need more experienced hands at training athletes, because India really needs a lot of athletes, so that we can win medals at the international stage. And that cannot happen without the population getting into sports. But having said that, we have come to the end of the show. But viewers, just be reminded that there is a festival 5K which is going to happen between December 12th and 21st, where registrations are already up and running on the fastandup.in site, where you are free to register either for the 5K race or the 5K social. A 5K race has a registration fee. 5K social is absolutely free. 5K race gives you an opportunity to race against the best in the country, and cash prizes are available right from 18 years to upwards of 60 years, both men and women, up to 5 spots. So do register and try your hand in a very interesting format, and also at a distance of 5K, which is a great distance to run. So thank you so much, all the viewers, and Ian, thank you very much for joining us from UK.
Thanks very much, and good luck, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic time. I'll be doing the 5K as well.
Thanks, Ian, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Take care.